My name is Professor Wilfred Ukpere, professor in the Department of Industrial Psychology and People Management. I've been a chief editor to so many journals across the globe, and I have published quite extensively in the human resources space. And of course, also engaged in so many interdisciplinary research also. A decent work is actually uh, a work that is good, perfect, and a work that respects the working man or the individual that is working. And in terms of respecting the working man, it actually providing conducive working condition or a palatable place for the working man to be more productive in terms of his work. And when we talk about decent work, of course, it also relates to pay, the pay package or the wages that a working man should earn from his or her labor. So all those things cataloged together form what is called decent work. If I would just like to reflect on the International Labour Organization definition of decent work, that says that decent work is a productive work for women and men in condition of freedom, equity, security, and human dignity. And you see, so in general, according to them, decent work is considered as decent when it pays fairly, when the pay is fair. Can you see the pay to worker is very fair? So that is the definition of the ILO. And if we look at Wiki's definition, it said decent work is employment that respect the fundamental right of the human person, as well as the right of workers in terms of conditions of work, safety, and of course, remuneration. Respect for the physical and mental integrity of the worker in the exercise of his or her employment. Can you see? So it goes down to issues of respect, considering the fundamental right of the human person, which is of course right to life, right to dignity, right to freedom of speech, right to associate, right to belong. I think that is what this and of course equal pay for equal job, both for men and women. So that is what decent work is all about. When the working man is happy with the job he is doing, which is, of course, also a sign, a symbol of decency in the work that the person is doing. So, decent work should be something we, as human beings, actually within the work environment, should be aiming, both from the managerial point of view and, of course, from those who are involved in terms of the work. Unions should be able to promote the interests of their workers in terms of making sure that decent work is guaranteed for their workers. When we talk about globalization or the current global economic system, it is an economic system that is characterized by the characteristics of capitalism. And one of the characteristics of capitalism goes back to issues related to self-interest, craze for profitability, pursue profit at all cost, no matter who is affected, no matter the effect on human being or on the environment or every other issues, you see. And to a great extent, it actually eroded the concept of decent work, or it eroded the doctrine of decent work. You understand? If you look at the way labor or workers were utilized within the global economy, you will notice that all we noticed was a case of exploitation. And when your intention is to exploit labor, definitely decent work will have to be eroded, or decent work will be eroded in that process. For instance, if you look at some of the ways workers were utilized within the global economy, what we noticed was a total growing downward spiral on wages and working conditions. There was a concerted effort to reduce the wages of workers, the pays of workers. All manners of approaches were used in terms of cost cutting. Most of the organizations, or most of the global or transnational corporations, always look for how to actually reduce the wages that workers are paid. For instance, the movement of some of the jobs from America to China was in an effort to reduce the pay of workers in America. And you see, so this can actually lead to workers underbidding themselves in terms of trying to reduce what they earn, in order to placate the capitalists or the transnational corporations. And also another thing we noticed was also issues of job destruction and losses. You see, it seems to me that within the global economy, managers were praised for destroying jobs. And most of the managers that were able to destroy jobs through downsizing, retrenchment, were promoted or elevated in terms of their pay and in terms of their positions within organization. So it seems to me that most of the global organizations were looking for real hackers, managers who can actually hack job and destroy job. That was what we noticed, and that cannot guarantee decent pay, because one of the aspects of decent work is job security. Can you see? If a job is not secured, it's not decent. It cannot be decent. Can you see? One of the characteristics of decent work is job security. And if you look at the global economy, we are no more seeing secure jobs. We are hearing about casual jobs. I will come to that later on, and all the rest kind of atypical employment patterns. And of course, we also notice a race to the bottom in labor standard. For instance, ILO has a kind of standard practices in terms of how workers should work with regards to safety and other things within the workplace. But within the global economy, we notice a total diminishing aspect of labor standard. For instance, if you remember the fire outbreak in Bangladesh, where they have export processing zones, where women were caged into a warehouse of textile production and all the rest. You remember when inferno fire engulfed that particular warehouse? Many workers perished. There was no safety provision, and we continue to see from country to country demotion of safety standard within the workplace. This will not actually guarantee decent work, as it is conceived, And of course, there was also issues of abusive labor relationship, within the global environment with regards to labor. Issues of course, sexual harassment for women. That cannot guarantee decent work in the workplace. Women should not be bullied, unnecessarily harassed sexually. And of course, we also notice issues of employees killing. Most of the employees that resisted the capitalist doctrine in places like China were executed overnight. I came across that when I read the book by Naomi Klein, No Logo, No Country, and so those are some of the visible things we were noticing within the global economy, all in the name of profit, grace for profit. And of course, like I mentioned, the issue of casualization and flexibilization of employment. Can you see? We started actually chasing flexible employment pattern, and in fact, it seems to be that to a certain extent, workers have accepted the concept because they have no choice. Can you see? They have no choice, and I will tell you why workers are losing their voices and why workers do not have choice within the current dispensation. So all this kind of job does not guarantee permanency. Can you see? And a non-permanent job is not a decent work. Can you see? It cannot be a secure job, because tomorrow they can actually disband the job or the contract. Can you see? And you cannot actually hold the organization because you are expected to go and meet the contractor, and the contractor will tell you job is finished. Can you see? So this does not guarantee permanency or job security, which of course erode decent work. And of course, we'll talk about issues of training. For the fact that organizations are not interested in retaining workers, they were not actually investing also in workers in terms of training. You see, because there's no way you will start training somebody you know that you will retrench tomorrow. You see, so these are some of the things we're noticing within the global economy. But also, one issue that can actually guarantee decent work is training of workers, so that if they are retrained, they can find other alternative job or become entrepreneurs, which is one of the emphasis with regards to the SDG, 17 SDG goal, that workers should also be empowered to become entrepreneurs and become employers of labor themselves. Can you see? So, and in the absence of training, we cannot actually guarantee that, or we cannot see that coming into fruition, you know. And of course, there have also been instances of workers' exploitation and of course child labor in the export processing zone, you know. So child labor is not a decent work in any manner. Children should be in school. Children should be developed, you know, within the academic environment, and not be working at the age of kids or children that should actually be in school at the time they are working. But we notice child labor within the export processing zone in great measure, particularly in the Asian regions, you know, China, Bangladesh, Indonesia, and all the rest. So most of those things were quite visible, and child labor can never be categorized as decent work. And of course, another thing that was also destroying jobs within the global economy was also issues of corporate marriage, or what we call mergers and acquisition, or amalgamation, as the Indians call it, you know, which was actually also destroying jobs. When two big organizations merge together, then they will say, let's call the SS fat, let's trim the SS fat. And who are those SS fat? The working class. Can you see? They reduce the working class. So that was also destroying job, or creating a kind of job destruction within the organizational environment. And of course, there's also what we call phenomena of casino economy, which is of course a situation of footloose speculative capital. Capital moving from one country to the other on speculation, investing in stock and all the rest. All this cannot create productive labor. When capital move from South Africa to China, from China to India, there's no way they can guarantee security for job of people that were involved on the bottom line. Can you see? So because these are speculative businesses, and that was one of the business we noticed within the global environment, and that has that detrimental effect on issues of decent work, and of course on workers themselves. And of course, we also notice issues of restricted labor mobility, visa regime by the advanced, so-called advanced countries of the world, you know. And when you restrict labor from the third world, and you can move your capital from place to place, you disadvantage workers in the third world. That is why workers in the third world are moving into other countries illegally, and of course also receiving unreasonable wages, which is of course what is also causing crisis now in South Africa, with the tension that foreigners are charging lesser wages and taking the locals' job, you know. These are also issues, you know, that one have to also put into consideration when we talk about decent work, because workers that have moved to countries like from Africa to USA illegally cannot actually vie for legal job. As such, capital or the owners of production will definitely exploit them by hiding them and paying them peanuts. Can you see? This was one of the visible things we also noticed within the global economy. And of course, technology, the impact of technology, we all know it in terms of job destruction. In fact, I was at the Standard Bank the other day, and most of the people I used to know, they're no more there. Out of this is no more here. And most of them may be at home, no job. Can you see? In fact, the Standard Bank at Rambegg has just closed, and the Standard Bank at Lakeside has closed. You know, these are just, who are those manning those places? Workers. Definitely, those workers are pushed back into the labor market. So those works, as far as I'm concerned, are not decent work, because now we, the customers of Standard Bank, have been directed to use our apps and all the rest. We think it's convenient. There's some people are paying the price. That is the working class. And those are not decent work. Can you see? So those will definitely affect decent work. And of course, technology, job destruction, so many new technologies that are coming every day, innovations and technology definitely will have detrimental impact on the working class. And of course, will come on the way of decent work. And of course, erosion of labor unions' power. When more and more workers are destroyed, when more jobs are destroyed, when more work is destroyed, definitely it will affect the association of labor, which is the labor union. Can you see? That is why you see that as all these job destructions are taking place, labor is not speaking out as they used to speak out before, because membership have totally reduced. Can you see? Because of most of their typical job relationship. Can you see? Labor is no more vocal the way they used to be in those days. So this will definitely come in the way of decent work, because remember, one of the principles of decent work is freedom of association, the right of association, as mentioned in terms of the fundamental right when I gave you the definition. Can you see? So if labor cannot associate because of depleted membership, definitely the voice of labor will be affected, and of course that will come in on the way of decent work. And of course, finally, the motion of industrial democracy. The motion of industrial democracy, that is to say, industrial democracy emphasized that workers should have a say in decision affecting them. But now, within the current dispensation, it seems to me that workers have lost their voices. And in fact, managers also don't give them opportunity to contribute in decision affecting them. This will certainly come in the way of decent work in the workplace. So those are some of the challenges. So what is very noticeable within the current global economy, and which actually warranted change. And if I will quote from Ukpere, that is me actually, in terms of one of my previous work, I mentioned that the right to gainful employment, of course, gainful employment is decent work when it is gainful. The right to gainful employment was indeed one of the fundamental rights of every living person or individual, as enshrined by the UN Charter for Human Rights as far back as 1945. However, it is a pity that the current global logics have exacerbated the erosion of this very fundamental right of the working person or the working man. Can you see? So that is with regards to issues of decent work within the global economy. I still see issues of labor exploitation and indecency